So I was asked what I thought about multi-class and how it may affect the future of the game and other stuff. So I've been giving it some thought. So here are my opinions, and let's just get into it, shall we? When it comes to multi-classing, I really had to think hard on it because usually you talk about multi-classing in the aspect of Final Fantasy XIV and people immediately go to Final Fantasy XI or I guess 1.0, right in that area when Final Fantasy XIV recently came out because they were doing a similar thing. And I wasn't around for either of those. I never really played 11. Just didn't care for it. And that's that. So, my perspective generally will be coming from something like Final Fantasy Tactics, which has a job system in it, and a way to multi-class as well. As well as if you've ever played Rift, when it was a thing, it had a system of multi-classing as well, which I thought worked out pretty well for it. But yeah, when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV, what would I do differently, I guess? I'm really not sure how to even answer that. Because, I mean, what we got right now seems to be working just fine, to be totally honest. But let's explore multi-classing and sort of get into it. Also, of course, I'd like to know whatever y'all are thinking. So if anybody wants to tell me what they think, what they feel, do they prefer the Final Fantasy XI system? Did you ever played Rift? Did you enjoy the Souls and that system where you can interchange different jobs or classes into each thing? Maybe Final Fantasy Tactics. Maybe you like that system. I mean, it's similar to 11. I just think that 11 was more like Final Fantasy Tactics put into an MMO setting, into a way that didn't make it too overpowering. Because when it comes to multi-classing, that's probably the biggest problem right there, is trying to balance it out in such a way that you don't wind up with something so OP, but at the same time making it viable, which is something from what I've read and heard other people have talked about when it comes to Final Fantasy XI, is something that Square really didn't do very well at all, considering there's apparently some jobs in that game that you would never use it as a primary. It would only be used as a secondary, because it just didn't have enough viability to be a primary job. So let's sort of explore here. I'm going to throw up some things on the screen, like the Final Fantasy Tactics job tree, because this one is one I like a lot. It's pretty much boils down to this. You've got two basic classes that you start with. It's going to be a squire and a chemist. Chemist is something I wouldn't mind seeing somehow being worked into a healer into the game. I'm just not sure how to go about it, considering it uses consumables. But that's another topic for another day. So, with these, what you do is you sort of level up these jobs, and each job level will then open up other jobs, depending on how many levels and what you have. And then, of course, they have sort of a experience currency that goes with them, GP, that you can then use on skills, abilities, and other things, which then you can essentially use on any job. You've got sort of a primary job, a secondary job set of skills, and then another set of skills that you can pull from anywhere, from enhancing your movement to enhancing whatever it is you do as a reaction or something to whatever else is going on the field, as well as maybe increasing your defense to some certain things and other stuff. So, with that in mind, say, you've gone down the chemist route. At level 2, you have access to priest and wizard. From that point, you can then turn your chemist into a priest or wizard and then subclass subclass it into whatever else you got. So with that system, you could go ahead and you have your chemist, or what I like to do, I'll just go with my bread and butter setup. This is something I love doing. Unfortunately, it's a single player game, so it's not like I can wreck people, and unless I got the PSP version, which I do have, but I knew people who had it to actually play against them. But getting a dancer, having a dancer and having its big ability, like I think it was Forbidden Dance or whatnot. One of the things I like to do with my dancer was make my dancer my primary. My secondary generally would be, it didn't really matter whether it was primary or secondary. I just like making them a dancer primary. And then my secondary would be the chemist, giving her access to the ability of items. Dancer, of course, was a female-only job in this game. It can only be done by females. Its male counterpart is the bard, which is the complete opposite of it. But you put the dancer, you give it items, and then as a reaction, I would give it Vanish, which comes, I think, from the ninja job class, which luckily is something you actually have to level up in order to get down to dancer, because you've got to level up through, or at least level up past that. It will unlock naturally from leveling up the other things you need to unlock dancer, essentially. But you give it Vanish, and then give it some movement, +3 to movement, ignore height, something like that from one of the other jobs. And then essentially I would tell her to dance, do her Forbidden Dance, unless we're on some kind of big bad boss who's immune to all status effects. Hit her with a stone, which causes her to then vanish, and then nobody can target her, nobody can see her, nobody knows where she is, and I just move her freely around the field wherever I need to. And if I absolutely got to, I have clutch items when it becomes her turn again to raise somebody or heal somebody, with a clutch heal or whatnot. Granted, I have to be right next to them to do it because I won't have throw item on her. But, that's just some of the tech of making something that may not be all that OP into something completely OP, using sort of a multi-class system. See, the dancer is generally frail, and if you know she's dancing something like the Forbidden Dance or whatever it is, and you need to stop her, well, you go up and you whack her real hard a few good times, and she's going to fall over and crumple and die, thus putting an end to whatever impending doom you had against your foes. But because you can way the job multi-class system works, giving her Vanish and then forcibly making her disappear before anybody gets a chance to touch her makes her practically invincible at that point. You can't really target her, but if she does get caught up in an AoE effect, of course that's going to hurt. You just have to be mindful and keep her away from everything. So, I like that system. However, doing that on a multiplayer setting, probably not going to work out. I would like to see it. I mean, the idea of it is pretty nice. I do enjoy that. And looking at Final Fantasy XI, the way they seem to have done it is they've got like 6 standard jobs: the warrior, white mage, red mage, thief, black mage, monk. And meanwhile, then you have unlockable jobs like the paladin, dark knight, and these are all unlockable after doing a quest after level 30 and having the appropriate expansion and so forth and so on, kind of like what we have now. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then they've got the primary and the secondary job system, where the secondary job will be half of whatever your primary's level are, and I believe you have to also have that primary up that level, so you can't like have primary warrior or something and then have no levels into Dark Knight and make that your secondary, and you'll suddenly have like 34 levels worth of support coming from the Dark Knight thing. You would have to both have them up to, I guess, the proper levels. Unfortunately, since I haven't played that game, I'm just going from what I've read. I'm not really versed in it. I could be wrong on how that works. But the system seems pretty nice as it is. I mean, it seems like they've taken FFT and made it into an MMO setting, so it's not too overpowering. Because if you could, I mean, I can just imagine if you could take like your top skills of, say, warrior, and then whatever your top, defensive cooldowns or DPS cooldown or whatever it is with paladin or something, and then shove it over there onto your warrior, you could make one beast of a tank that never dies. Or, even with Dark Knight, Dark Knight Paladin, some kind of weird combo like that, you could probably make a beast of a tank out of that. So, given it only access to a certain amount of abilities at, pretty much the lower end of the scale, seems to be a decent way of going about it. But the problem with multiclassing is balancing at this point. Because, you could make things that are really, really great, really, really cool, but then you suddenly run into, oh snap, what if we put this into the hands of a ranger? Or what if we put this into the hands of a dragoon? Or what if suddenly we've given Black Mage access to this really awesome ability that only comes from White Mage or something? What now? And it becomes a really tricky balancing act. And from, of course, what I can gather from other people, it was a very hard balancing trick, I guess, for Square that never actually was able to balance it. As you saw, several primary jobs that were just the jobs to be, and then there were some jobs where if you were doing anything with it, it was purely as a sub job and nothing more. You weren't primarying that job unless you just really didn't know what you were doing, or you just told everybody to just F off or whatever, because I really, 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 really want to play this job as my primary. Which, of course, you do you. It can happen. I've done it too. Because back in the day of Vanilla WoW, I played a druid. Druids were not the thing to ever play for anything ever. Not at all. Not until BC anyway, when they became pretty good healers. But, multi-classing, it's just it's a really, really weird thing, because the few games who have done it pretty decent for their games. I think I mentioned the WoW killer that didn't actually kill WoW, and I can't think of its name. Anyway, earlier, and they had this system where you just had to go unlock these souls, and then you put whatever 3 souls you want, and then you put whatever you want to put your things into, so you can have abilities from this, that, and the other. And the way it did it left for a very unique system. A very unique system where you could have hundreds upon hundreds, at least I think it was a few hundred, at least different combinations, if not more, that you could do possibly with this, and people were always looking for something new, looking for a different combination that would be able to outdo this, that, and the other. And the bard in that game was actually a lot of fun, having that and doing stuff. But this idea of multi-classing, I think right now the way we have it, in my opinion, is probably the best way to go about it. Because right now in Final Fantasy XIV, everything seems to have its own unique feel. You're not gonna see, you pretty much, know what to expect from what. And at the same time, everything sort of excels in its own little way, providing the player knows how to use it, I guess. But you know, everything has its ups, everything has its downs, but they also have these role actions, which I feel is probably the best way of going about it. Because one of the things I really hate about some MMOs, and Star Wars The Old Republic is probably a good one to look at this, but they'll have pretty much the exact same ability on multiple classes. It just looks different. And for whatever reason, it just drives me nuts. It also, you know, feels like I'm not playing anything unique. You know, the idea of being a Sith or, you know, a Jedi and stuff like that is a really nice concept, but when the people I'm fighting are using the exact same ability I am, it just looks a little different. Instead of, say, it being lightning, it's throwing rocks at me or whatever. You know, it makes it feel not as unique as one would think. So with this current system, with the role actions, you know, each class is unique. It has its own little things, like, you know, a machinist, in my opinion so far, really is horrible at DPS until you pretty much access things like the Gauss rifle. Wow, I can't even think, and I main this class now. Anyway, until you actually get some of the more higher end abilities, like you know, attaching your Gauss connection, having access to pretty much everything you need to, being able to overheat, having the ability to control that heat and keep yourself, say, in that 50 to 100 zone until you really want to blow something up, where you use your wildfire bomb, blow everything, and just blow the crap out of it while you're on your 10 seconds of overheat. You know, at that point in time, in my opinion, the machinist kind of sucks in the DPS department. Like, I felt horrible playing my machinist when I realized how little bit of DPS it felt like I was doing, all the way up to that point when I finally got to actually really start unloading some damage. But, you know, and that one requires more of a, I guess, like an accurate game, accurate timing, precision, that's the word I'm looking for. High precision with that class. Well, other classes don't have that. You know, other classes have other things that really make them stand out, from, you know, damage mitigation to explosive damage, depending on if the stars align and so forth. You know, if they're in the right position when they start unloading things, and then, you know, some could just jump into oblivion because they jumped at the wrong time and get nuked by a massive AoE that they couldn't get out of. Anyway, but they all have their strengths and weaknesses, and they're all pretty unique to themselves. You can't really take one and look at the other and go, yep, that's the same, with the exception of maybe Resurrection. Wait, is that a... That's not... Okay, yeah. I thought it was a role action for whatever reason. Anyway, except for maybe like Resurrection. As far as I know, there's no real difference between like Raise and Resurrect and whatever else the, you know, other healer has, other than it revives somebody. You know, I kind of wish they were all just called Life, to be honest. And I don't know, made its way into the healer action spot, so it more feels justified that every healer has it. But that's just me. That's my thoughts on that. But having the role action is definitely a nice thing, because there are certain things that all the classes need access to for a particular thing, and it sort of gives those classes their abilities to where they're still unique, yet, you know, they're not exactly trying to be different either in certain spots. So every tank is probably going to have Rampart, when it hits level 8. Every tank is going to maybe have low blow on their thing. Every tank is probably sitting on a provoke when they absolutely need it. You know, and it doesn't feel like they're having to rename this provoke on one and then, you know, something else on another, and like, I don't know, the Dark Knight has growl or something where it growls at the enemy and does the exact same thing as provoke. Prevents them from having to do that, and it puts it all in one nice little area, making it very convenient, easy to figure out, and they sort of scale on a different level setting than everything else. But as for multi-classing as a whole, I don't really see it working out like it may have done. I mean, I understand that there's a place for it, and it's one of those niche little things in Final Fantasy XI. It really is. I would really like to do it like they do it in Tactics. If anything, I would really like to be able to go, well, I need to, I don't know, level up my black mage to level 4, and then I gotta level up a white mage to level 4, and then an oracle and a time mage to level 3, and that will give me a mediator or calculator or whatever it was. I can't remember if the name changed or not. Anyway, but, you know, and that would give me access to this class that I can then use, or something like that. Or, you know, 2 levels into archer would give me access to the thief, and then I could get like 3 levels in archer and 4 levels in thief and 2 levels in geomancer, and it would give me access to the ninja class. That honestly is something I think I would love to see happen. Practically, though, looking at it in a practical sense, no, it's not going to work that way at all. I don't think there's any way for them to practically make a multi-class system work anywhere close to that. So, quite frankly, right now, I think with the role actions, the fact that every class seems viable in its own sense, depending on really the skill of the player playing it, because, you know, it doesn't have to completely top the DPS in Final Fantasy XIV, as long as it's doing its job, and it's doing it well. Unlike other MMOs, where what I have noticed is, like, if you're this class and this class got hit heavily in the last patch, there's a good chance nobody's ever going to use you until it gets rectified, or they nerf the next big thing into the ground and they go, okay, you know what, we need Shadow Priests again, because, you know, the Fire Mage got nerfed into the ground because it took over so quickly or whatever. You know, but, you know, with the current system, everything feels like it's got its own unique place into the game. And as long as the class is being played, you know, in a good manner, you know, as long as the skill of the player is good, generally you're not going to see a lot of people, or at least I haven't seen a whole lot of people complaining about somebody going, oh my gosh, we've got another summoner in here. Ooh, yay. Because as long as that summoner's doing its job, and it's doing it well, or well enough anyway, for nobody to notice, you know, it's still good. And it has the nice little role actions to also back it up that, you know, all the other magical DPS will have too. It can swift cast something, it can mana shift, you know, it can sure cast if it needs to. What's another one? It has drain, things like that. And, you know, those are nice tech options. It can lucid dream itself. I mean, there's nothing like having a summoner who actually knows how to play summoner. You lose your healer or whatnot, and then the summoner immediately swift casts and raises your healer instead of just sitting there going, oh, well, we lost the healer, let's all wipe. It's really nice to see somebody who knows how to play their class. Anyway, I feel like I keep getting off topic, but let's go ahead and just end this here. What do you think about multi-classing? I hope this answered, my thoughts on it, because, I kind of like how it's done in certain aspects, but at the same time, practically, I don't feel that multi-class really plays a part anywhere in Final Fantasy XIV now, nor in the future, other than what they currently have with the role actions. I can see maybe a small expansion onto that. That would be nice to have a few extra things in there. Like I was saying, all healers should just have raise or life or whatever it is. I would like it to be just life, sticking with the Final Fantasy, jive. But, it would be nice if maybe they expanded a little bit on it, added a little bit to it, maybe restricted a little bit too, because as it is now, you get access to what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 abilities, and you get 10 spaces on that bar, essentially. I think you can use all the abilities, which kind of defeats the purpose of having it as a shared action in a way, because what I would like to do is to feel like I need to bring what I think I'm going to need, honestly, when it comes to this current system. It needs a little refinement. It needs to be shrunk down to maybe 8 slots, if I got my count right anyway. It needs to be shrunken down by like 2 or 3 slots, because there are some things I never really ever use, like break, addle. I'm sure there are moments in the game that those abilities at one point were really good or could be good right now, but as for me playing and a relatively new player, I have never really felt the need to ever use any of those abilities, much anyway, that I just felt like I needed to. Now, I know there are some bosses where applying heavy to an enemy who is trying to reach a certain point and then something goes boom, that sort of thing, is generally a good thing to have. So don't look at me and go like, oh, well, over here, if you don't stop that from reaching wherever, it's going to go blow. Yeah, I got that. I've got that. But at the same time, I feel like it needs to be shrunk just a little bit. And then you have to pick and choose what it is you want to go. Do you want to go in with Surecast? Or would you rather have Mana Shift or something else in its place? That's something that I would like to see happen with the current system. Other than that, I think the current system is pretty good as it is, but multi-class and similar to like FF11 really shouldn't come back. It really shouldn't, because then they're going to have a massive problem with balancing, and it's not just going to be balancing, say, the 8 skills that we have, or 10 skills, whatever it is, in the role action section. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. This ran a lot longer than I meant for it to. Sorry about that. And I will talk to you later. See ya.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment, smash that like button, and always subscribe for more. And of course, there are other videos floating around somewhere on the screen, so click one of those and see if you can find something that suits your fancy. Till then, I'll see you later. Bye.